June 11th. The time is 6:32. Mary Beth, if you could please call the roll.
Soretta.
Here.
Foltz.
Here.
Fontaine.
Here.
Keesley.
Here.
Rebold.
Here.
And Leon.
Here.
6 present, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Turn this over to Finance Committee. Council Member Winter.
Great, thank you. So today we're just going to start a conversation, and Laura, I'll really probably throw it to you, and then both of our chiefs are in the audience today to talk about something that's really kind of been going since 1997, and Laura can show you the drawings over there, but this isn't necessarily a new idea of a combined safety center that would use a lot of different collaboration, innovation, and innovation just isn't a new building or a new way to utilize a device. Innovation is a new way of thinking, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now, and possibly doing something with tax. It takes a lot of strategic thinking, and where do we want to see ourselves as a community in the next 10 years, in the next 20, 30, 50? I mean, this is a building that would last a long time. I had the opportunity to visit the Jackson Safety Center a number of times, and I've been at other safety centers, and it is a nice asset that each community has. So we just want to bring up the conversation. Laura's going to talk about that, but it's just open, and we're going to have a number of different public meetings and sessions, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're excited to just start the conversation and see what we can get out of it. So Laura, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Just quickly, I'll go over what's in front of each one of you. There's a little packet here, just kind of a cover sheet that looks like this. Following that, you'll have some questions and answers that I've put together for you from a financial perspective on this project, and then you'll have a letter from both fire chief and the police chief of their thoughts, and they're going to come up and speak to you as well. This is just for your reading later on to get some more details. And then the final page is just kind of an FAQ that if council would choose to move this to the agenda, and if ultimately it would go before voters, I wanted to prepare something that would be a nice reference for the residents that we could put on Facebook, put on our website, how will this impact me if I'm a resident? So we'll have all those pieces available. Like Stephanie said, this isn't something that's a new idea. The city's been talking about the idea of a combined safety facility for a long time. We pulled out an old conceptual drawing of one, and I think, and one of the chiefs can correct me if I'm wrong, I think this goes back to 97, is that correct? So over 20 years, you can see it's a little tattered and torn. I tried to pin it up as best I could on that board. But it's something that's been talked about several different times. And what's kind of prompted it to come back up at this point is a discussion that the fire chief and I have been having over the past, I would say about 6 months. He came to me and said he had some concerns about the funding stream for his fire department long term. As that department has moved from, a volunteer fire department into the world of more full-time personnel, a lot more EMS calls than they've ever had before. Every year we set a new record for their number of calls. He had some concerns, which he'll detail for you, about staffing for fire calls, particularly overnight on the weekends when Station 1, the fire station on Main Street, isn't fully staffed, and how we use those EMS personnel to kind of cover for some of those things. So he came to me and he said, could we put on a 1 mil property tax to help support fire department? And I said, well, let's look at it. Let's see how much it'll generate. He and I had some discussions, and then we brought the administrator into our discussions as well and had him join the conversation. And we said, well, that could work, and it would, definitely help, but can we look at some other options? Because of course, as we know, the school district just came in May for additional property tax, and that's their big driving force, whereas the city has relied more on income tax. Our income tax rate has been the same since 1971. We've been at 1.5%. And if you look on the about 3rd page of your packet, you'll see I've listed out all the other area cities: Akron, Alliance, Canton, Greene, Louisville, Massillon. Everybody's at 2 or 2.5 in the area close to us. And so we kind of started to think about, what if we increased our rate to help support our safety services? And if we did that, what kind of money would it generate? And could we bring back out this idea of a safety center? Now, at the same time as I was having these discussions with the fire chief, I also met Mr. Bill Knepp, who's in the audience tonight, and he'd been working on the safety center idea for a long time, so that's why it kind of came back to mind. So we pulled out some of those old ideas and looked at how they would city was to increase the tax by 0.5%, going from 1.5 to 2, we'd plan to do this for 10 years. Because just like if you and I bought or built a house, we'd have a mortgage. So this building's mortgage would be a 10-year mortgage, not a 15 or a 30 like most of us would do. So we'd have this 0.5% increase for 10 years. And I asked our bond underwriters that we used the last time we refunded bonds if they could run some numbers for me. I asked Regional Income Tax Agency if they could run some numbers for me. And what we came up with was that the cost of the debt, even with the worst case income tax scenario, so if our largest employer left town and we went into another global recession, could we cover the cost of the mortgage on this building? And yes, we could. And how do we know that? North Canton's lived that. We know exactly what kind of income tax dollars we have if our biggest employer leaves and then we hit a global recession, because that happened in 2008, 9, 10. So I was able to run those numbers. If we look at a more reasonable scenario, based on kind of our 5 or 10 year history of income tax, I think that the tax would generate enough to cover the mortgage or the debt on the building, and it would give us another about $600,000 in revenue per year. That revenue could only be used on safety, so that would help support the fire department operations. We could obviously equip the building, add new technologies, provide additional funding for training. And one big area we see a need for training is in the mental health arena, as our safety forces deal more and more with those types of issues. And part of the concept of the building would include a training facility so that police, fire, EMS, dispatch could all train on site. And the other big key is we would set up a reserve fund or a savings account for the ongoing maintenance of the building. So even when the tax would expire at the end of 10 years, we would have a significant amount of dollars set aside for when that building needs a new roof or HVAC or new bay garage doors, whatever it would need. We wouldn't have to go back to voters 20, 30, 40 years from now and say, hey, now we need that new roof, or we're coming back to you. One thing we also want to look at anytime you're talking about increasing your tax rate is how is this going to impact the taxpayer? How is it going to impact business? Our largest businesses in town, our largest withholding taxpayers, are both nonprofit educational organizations. We have North Canton City Schools and Walsh University. Both those organizations do not earn a profit, so they don't pay a net profit tax. Thus, this would not impact their bottom line at all. It could impact some of their employees, and we'll get into what it means for the individual in a minute. The other thing you have to think about with those two largest employers in the city is they are a very great benefit to us with their withholding tax, but they're also something that our safety forces have to think of each and every day. You know, school safety is a very big issue, and we have thousands of users of the safety forces that are here in town, both at Walsh and in the city schools, and most of those students are not residents. You know, their parents aren't residents. They're here from either outside the city in the school district or the Walsh students that have come in from other areas. If we have other businesses that do earn a profit, which is about 10% of our total income tax, they would pay an additional 0.5% on those profits. However, if they're looking to relocate or move, they go to another city, everybody else is at 2 or 2.5, so we're pretty comparable. If the choice was to move to a township, well, 0 is lower than 1.5, just like it's lower than 2, so they always have that choice. However, we in the city feel like our great services and lower water rates help keep businesses in the city, even though they're paying that tax. Now let's talk about the individual. What does it mean for residents? A resident with no earned income, such as seniors with only a pension, full-time students, unemployed, they would pay nothing additional. So they're not paying tax now. A resident who lives in North Canton but works in another city, such as Canton or Akron, Massillon, Louisville, that has a 2% or higher tax, would pay nothing additional because they're already paying where they work. So I'm going to use Stephanie as an example. She works in Canton. She's already paying 2.5 to Canton. You wouldn't owe North Canton anything.
I'm happy to give more.
Okay.
To you.
Well, no more from you. I'll use myself as an example. I live in the city and work in the city, so my rate would go from 1.5 to 2. On somebody that earns $50,000 a year, that's about $250 a year extra tax, about a little less than $5.
Laura, how much was that again?
For somebody that earns $50,000 a year, it's an extra $250 in tax. And I think I calculated it's about $480 a week. And obviously it goes up or down depending on your income. So again, if you're a new resident looking to move into the city and you're making that choice, is this extra tax gonna deter you? I don't think that it would be a big consideration, seeing as right now, you can choose to go to a township and pay 0, or you can choose to live in another city where they're already at 2 or 2.5. The final thing I want to talk to you about is the facility itself, the building. Where would we locate it? So I know that would be a big question. You can see the drawing that we have up there. I think the old concept was to put it at the corner of Main and Charlotte. Right now, what we've talked about internally has been about 4 different locations that the administrator, myself, the chiefs have identified. All of those are either on Main Street or very close to Main Street to keep our safety forces out of our residential neighborhoods. But of course, we don't want to reveal exact locations because we want to be able to negotiate as fair a purchase price as we can. If voters would, choose to approve a tax and we would be moving forward, we need to purchase property to be able to build a building. What would we do with the existing facilities? Right now we have 3. We have police and dispatch, which are downstairs here at City Hall. We have Fire Station 1 on Main Street, which is fire, and Station 2 on 7th Street, which is EMS. And we do have purposes kind of earmarked for each one of those. We do need more administrative space in City Hall. We can combine some other departments and bring them here. That would take the space downstairs. Station 1 could either be the future site of the new building or be sold. And Station 2 could be incorporated into Dogwood Park. It started its life in the 50s as a park garage and was supposed to be a temporary home for EMS and has become their full-time home. So it could go back to a park facility since it's right there in Dogwood Park and right next to the pool. Do you guys have any questions for me on the numbers before we turn it over to chiefs?
The question I had is just what popped in my head right away, because I didn't have a lot of time to think about it, was the cost of the building is one, and the location you covered. Why 10 years on the income tax? I mean, do we need it? Like, here's kind of what I was thinking right away. Like, I think about how I always do things, and if I have money or assets, I sometimes would borrow against my assets to get a lower rate, self-fund it, and then if I consolidate 3 to 1, the extra money I'd pay additionally to speed up the payoff period.
Right.
So that's just my mindset right away. Now, I know we haven't had a raise since '71 in income tax department, and obviously I feel I pay plenty. I do like the services. I think we'll be in direct competition with Jackson Township mainly and Lake Township, for as far as real estate goes. So that's just my 2 cents.
Right. As far as the 10-year term, that's just kind of what we've targeted as the mortgage on the debt versus what the tax will generate. So the building, the old conceptual drawings, Chief Minock had a friend that was able to go back and kind of modernize those as far as cost and say, if you built a similar concept today, what would it cost? And then estimating what we will probably pay to purchase the piece of property. We've put the total project cost at about $12 million. The debt on $12 million is about $14 million with our good bond rating. We talked about our bond rating a few weeks ago, and what interest rates are today. They're still fairly low. The bond underwriters have estimated for me that if we did a 10-year bond, it'd be about $14 million total cost. So just like when you pay your mortgage, you've got that extra interest.
And how did 0.5% come up versus a quarter or anything else?
We actually looked at 0.25%, but if we did that, obviously doesn't generate as much. We need to go out to 15 years. And we felt like the shorter term would probably be more advantageous to be able to say to voters, hey, if you can let us have this 10-year mortgage, at the end of the 10 years, we go right back to 1.5.
So the final thing was, is there a prepayment penalty? Number 2 is with the consolidation from 3 to 1, and we sell or do something with them, the monies that come from that, or the money's going into the shooting range, $250 a year or whatever it is. Like,
Right.
I mean, are these monies used to pile into the safety center? Which I like the idea, by the way.
Thank you. We do have the $250,000 that we've set aside for the range. Did that over 5 years. That could be put into this building as well.
I personally just thinking about that new paradigm shift of spending more money if we don't need to. But
Right.
I'm sure there's bigger reasons why you might want to do what you want to do, possibly.
Right, and we definitely can look into when we issue the debt, if we do, we would look at, is there a prepayment penalty? If tax continue to rise, if incomes in the area continue to rise, and we generated more money than we're predicting, then obviously we could pay that off early, and, best case scenario, we could go back to voters and say, hey, we only needed 8 years to do this, but we won't know that because income tax, fluctuates. We have to take our best guess at it.
And we should also reference just the basic finance that the longer the period of time you borrow money, the higher the interest rate will be. So a short-term rate is better than a long-term rate if we can make that work. In addition to having the lower rate, the net interest that we pay over that period is less. So yes, you could do it for 15, but you end up paying more in interest over that period of time. So we felt that the 10-year with the shortest rate available, given our bond rating, would make this happen a lot quicker.
Thank you, very good point, just like the difference between a 30-year mortgage or a 15 costs you less in the end.
Sorry, you love her.
Seriously answering for me. Mr. Revolt, you had a question?
What do you estimate the yield to be on 2% per year?
The extra 0.5%,
Yeah, what would be the total, what would
total
be the,
generated?
no, what would be the total that the extra 0.5% would generate? I can tell you what I think it is, but I'd like you to
Sure.
tell me.
I believe it will be about $2 million a year, a little north of that,
Really?
yes.
Okay.
And that's based on not only my own calculations, but also consulting with Regional Income Tax Agency. They're able to run data as far as where people live and work and who's going to end up paying that tax.
Okay. How many square feet do we think we'll build? Do we have some sense, Patrick, on what this thing looks like in terms of square footage?
Well, I think we've looked at a number of other facilities, New Philadelphia, Greene, Jackson, Worcester. A number of communities all around us have done these. And as you know, we sat with Bill Knepp, who's been gracious enough to guide us through this process for over a year in looking at some of these other facilities as far as the square footage. It depends on the location that we obtain. Can it be 1 story? Does it have to be 2? It depends on the footprint. So it's hard for me to pinpoint and say how much square footage it's going to take. But as you know, you were the mayor back then in 1997, and unfortunately we didn't go forward at that time. But the design was sound. The program that you had put together, and you look at the guts of that building, and as far as the rooms that are allocated for it, really about the only thing that is significantly changed, that's really noticeable, is that back in 1997, when you were mayor, they used to put people in jail here, and today we have an arrangement with the county sheriff's office that takes care of that function. But
What's the size of that building on the the tripod? Do we know?
I'd have to pull out the architectural.
That's okay, that's fine.
But I can get that.
That's okay.
Well, I think there's so many different examples. I don't know if we need to get that specific tonight.
Yeah, it's a
we're gonna
concept.
as we move forward with it, but there are many different buildings around the community and just the outliers where we can get examples of good designs. Yeah, Jackson, Green, Akron.
Well, the other thing we want to do, obviously those drawings are about 20 years old, and
Right.
like Patrick said, the basic functions, other than the jailing function, aren't that different, but the technologies that can go into a building, the energy savings that can go into a new building are very different today. There's a lot of grant dollars that are available when you get into some of the green programs, as well as for safety, and I know the chiefs are going to speak to that when they
Yeah.
come up.
Okay, good ideas.
Couple things here. I do believe this is a world of safety. And when you look at the top 3 reasons why people stay and live here and come here, it's either one or the other: communities, schools, safety. I do believe those are the 3 things why people are here. But when you look at this, though, and I've mentioned this before to you, have we done any focus groups on this yet? I mean, if you're putting a levy out there or something, we have to have focus groups of people to come in. I mean, I know this has been talked about, and all of a sudden this has been thrown at us on this meeting. I'd like to see what people actually think about this, and then I'd like to know how the mayor, if this is coming from the administration, I want to know, he's not here for, I don't know why, but I want to know what he thinks of it, and I'd like to know from each director why they think they need this. So it's not just thrown on us to make a decision on that. I want to know exactly specifics, because if I'm working on a school levy, that's the things I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do, what do the people think about it, exactly, you know, what are we doing with it, which you've laid out here pretty well. I'm pretty happy about that. And that's why people vote. You have to make sense of why people want to vote for this. And if we have our chiefs of everything explain it, you know, talking about the different buildings of the age and what the world of safety is going to be in the future, that's very important for us here. So I'm really all for that, but I'd like to make sure that we cover our bases on all of this.
Well, I think that's why the chiefs are here
Right,
tonight.
both chiefs are
Number
speaking.
one. Two, you know, as far as the mayor is concerned, that he is fully supporting this, and I'm sure that when he's here, he will tell you that himself. But, you know, I don't want you know, to make sure that we're not operating under the premise here that the administration is throwing something at the council.
Yeah.
We don't think in terms of that way. We're in a collaboration across divisions in this building that we don't believe exist anymore, and this is just reaching out and working with the finance director and whoever else is in this building to try to make what is the best decision for the future of the city. And so this is not something that is to be considered a ping pong ball that we're batting back and forth. And I know you don't think of it that way, but I want to make sure that your comments aren't interpreted that way.
I want to know who's going to drive this. I mean, someone's going to have to go into focus groups, just
but
like the superintendent does when it's good. Someone's going to have to.
Right, but I think that's the schools.
And I want to make sure that we're doing that.
Well, I think they are. If you look at other communities, I mean, you just saw what happened in Canton. They passed their levy. There weren't focus group after focus group. They had public meetings after it was presented. There's time to do that. There'll be time, if it even makes it that far, before the ballot. I mean, you know that. You were on the committee. This isn't something new.
I want to know if we're going to be doing that. That's what I want to know.
Well, but you are a part of it, just like they were a part of the council, just like the people that worked on the school levy. You were a part of it, just like administration. You're not going to back away from it unless you're not for it. But this is something, I mean, I'm glad you said that. They're not throwing this at us. This is an opportunity that possibly, and the citizens are going to vote. They're going to let us know if they want it or not in the end. And it's an opportunity for our community to look at things differently, to collaborate. And the chiefs are going to talk about that. And the answers are here, and they have their letters, if you looked at the packet, of things that they already commented on. So I think we need to give it a minute to at least have them come up. But this is not adversarial at all. This is a conversation.
Well, and if
I didn't mean it to be that way, but I want to make sure we're covering our bases, because we're in this to win this.
The first
Not just
10-minute
throwing this out
conversation,
and just
right.
let it go for the voters. We need to show them why. We need to give them good reasons for it from everyone who's involved.
Well,
We agree. Be very actively involved in making it happen.
But I think that's why tonight is the first look at it. for
Right.
everybody. We wanted to get, some factual information out in front of everybody at one time, at a public meeting, a special meeting that's only for this topic, so that it's addressed. And then, if you guys choose to move it onto a regular agenda, I'm assuming you're gonna do the 3 readings.
Of course.
So
Right.
we'll have 3 public meetings. If you want
That-
additional meetings,
Right,
that's.
and we talk, yeah.
And that's my prerogative here. We need to be as transparent as we can be. I really don't have a lot of information till I came here tonight. I know the concept has been out there, and that's why we're having a committee meeting. But
Right.
I was no way in favor of fast tracking this.
But nobody
This is-
was, Doug.
And I just want to make that known. But
I know, but like,
it's kind of alluded
everybody
to
was
that
not.
we were going to go a different route, and I was
It
going to go
wasn't
for
look
that.
like that.
So, we need the public to weigh in. It's important that everybody has an opinion. And as Member Surrender indicated, to cross T's and dot I's and make sure that people get the answers they need for this. Because, I'm, just off the cuff, I'm not favorable to raising income tax. You got to convince me. I mean, that's been our biggest strength, is being 1.5%. Because we were here when Hoover left, and Pat, you were here, and I thought we were in a better position when we didn't raise it that time.
Well, it wouldn't
Even going
raise
through some
yours.
growing pains.
It wouldn't raise yours because you give it all to Canton anyways.
No, that's
So-
true. Well, I understand that, but still, it's
Right.
for our residents. You
Well,
know,
and don't forget,
we're all
most-
individual here in how we're
Right,
gonna vote.
but a lot of our residents, they wouldn't pay it anyways because they don't pay income tax. So keep
That's
that in
what-
mind too,
that's
as
one way
the
of
seventh
looking at
best
it.
I can
city
carry it on
for
my
people to
shoulders.
The other way
retire.
of looking at it is we're gonna attract less businesses at 2% versus 1.5, let's be fair. We
Could
gotta
be.
lay that all out.
Yep.
And when we boast about it, we can't use another direction or another,
It's like,
alternative argument,
it's
you
like,
know, when that's out there.
it's like anything, you know, in order to make an informed decision, we have to have
Exactly.
Yes,
information.
and that's what
And
we're doing
that's
tonight.
why
we're
This
gonna
is the
gather
first
that.
Glad it
step.
was brought, it's
'Cause I-
gonna
'cause
be
I feel
three
this-
full readings, in my
First
opinion.
conversation.
To move
Yeah,
this forward.
Doug, I feel the same way as you. I mean, I'm not rushing to raise income tax, even though I
Right.
pay it.
Because
We all do.
really, the deadline to get this on the ballot's August. We
August
talked
8th.
about this, August 8th, so we have
We have
time.
time.
It's not
Yeah.
like it's
Right.
middle of July and we're
Right,
trying to do
this is the first conversation
Right,
from 1997.
Well, let's
when
let it
Darrell was
flow.
The mayor.
good point. Anybody else, or we bring the chiefs up?
Yeah.
for a vote?
You know, I think, you know, one of the things that has been a constant in the last 18 years when we first considered this was that there is a real need to combine the locations that we have under one roof. And they're great synergies, they're practical issues that merit our consideration. I think to Mark's point and to Doug's, I think the real question is what's the best way to fund this? Is there a good way that's acceptable to the public? You know, I was looking at some of the earlier figures that Laura had provided us earlier in the year. My guess is only 40% of our taxpayers are gonna pay for this.
Right.
30.
30. Okay, I rest my case.
Raise your
that-
hand if you're in the
that
30s.
60%, 70% of people are not going to be paying for this improvement. So, you know, in my thinking is that right? Is there a better way we can pitch this? I don't have the answer,
Hey, I say self-funded.
but I'm just saying. And I think the other thing that we're eventually, and Laura put her finger on it, is that we may have, certainly on the fire EMS side, to look at how we cover these increased operational costs at some juncture. And to Dominic, I think one of the things that we wanted to do, and this again goes to Doug, is that I think we want to be careful, and we don't want to say that this is a permanent tax. This is a temporary issue to get us to this objective. And if we can pay it off sooner, for example, I think you're been very conservative on your revenue estimate. My guess is, being the fiscal genius, according to my wife, who balances a checkbook, but I think we may actually have a little more revenue, but I'm glad you're taking a more conservative approach. I think that's the smart way to go. But to Mark's point, I think we need to get all these things nailed down, figure out how we can generate the broadest appeal, and go from there. You know, maybe it's a combination of property and income tax. I don't know, legally, we can take a quarter, can't we? We do a quarter?
We could do a quarter,
Yeah.
but a quarter would not,
A quarter alone will not do.
alone for 10 years would not get it done.
So that would be like 10 million instead of 20 million,
In a
roughly.
mill would generate how much, do you think?
A mill, I believe, generates about 360,000.
That's what I thought, okay. Okay.
I have a question for Tim. Going through all these contract negotiations over all these years, you know, the saying always was, well, you've got the money, so we should have the raise. So, you know, how would this play into it? Now we'll have money. You know, I realize it's for this, but it's safety. There'll be extra, there'll be reserves for whatever, you know, who deems what that means, and will the conciliators and the negotiators, and how will that play out?
Well, that's a very good question, and I think it's very pertinent to the round of negotiations that we had these past 6-8 months. And what was on the table, and I think it altered the negotiations because the bargaining units are used to the city talking about costs, expenses, where we are. In the past couple of years, things have changed for the better. And so in collective bargaining negotiations, if you're going to make the argument that you can't fund what the unions are asking for, then you have to demonstrate that. So we went into these negotiations simply not making that argument. The beginning of their argument was they can't argue the inability to pay. And we responded, well, that's not our argument. We're arguing transparency, fairness, that the rates that we provide for emergency forces are similar to what they would receive in the local area performing similar services. So I don't think that raising the income tax for the building and for certain types of training, I don't think that that'll be a concern for additional argument that because you have the money, you should pay us more. We're quite adept at looking at the local market, bringing those comparisons to the fact finder conciliators, and simply arguing transparency and fairness in wages and benefits.
And just to kind of piggyback on what Tim said, one thing that we would have to be very cautious about if, this did move forward, this is a limited time period tax. It's 10 years.
Right.
So we would need to be sure that we're spending that money, the extra money after the building, not on anything that's a reoccurring cost, because we don't want to become dependent on that money, because we want to be able to say to voters, at the end of the 10 years, this is done. Now, what the situation is at that point, none of us can know. But we don't want to put that money into things that are ongoing as best we can.
So again, to clarify some of your comments, those non-building expenses would be non-reoccurring. That is your vision.
That is my vision.
Okay.
And going back to what I said earlier about this city knows what it's like to go through a global recession and losing your largest employer, and Doug just mentioned we didn't raise the rate at that time. The only way we did that, because I've gone back and looked, I'm just curious about that stuff, is that people had made smart financial decisions in the years before and had built up good reserves, and we were able to keep going on that. Yeah. And to Dominic's point from earlier, combining these buildings, having more efficient running buildings should reduce some overall operating costs, which that type of money we can plow back into ongoing things.
Yeah, I'm all for a reduction quickly.
Okay, anybody else? Or chiefs like to come up and address this? Appreciate that.
In the interest of keeping everything moving, I'm not going to belabor all the fine points that are in the letters that Chief Bacon and I left for you. If anybody else needs those, we can get them to you. As just a general overview of what I'd like to see considered, when this building was built, from my department's perspective, there was probably 2 officers working a shift. Maybe a supervisor and 1 officer, maybe a supervisor and 2. We generally now have 4 to 6 plus a supervisor, and on day shifts even more because of myself and the lieutenant being there and the detectives. We're still working out of the same space that existed back then. As far as efficiency, I'm not going to combine 2 facilities like the fire department would. However, we actually lose man-hours working around all these shortcomings that we experience with the space downstairs. See the administrative offices up here have split. We have people at the Civic Center. We've had people in the house across the street. Some have come back, but I can't take my people and spread them out, so we're all stuck in that same little space. And again, the details are in that letter there. But some of it is a safety issue, some of it's just an efficiency issue, and I think as a community, most of you have been here at least as long as I have, and we remember how different things were in the 60s and 70s, and that's what's brought about this need as long as 20 years ago, and it
wasn't met then. The world's changed, our community's changed, these jobs have changed, the way we do them changed also, and we're still trying to do it out of these same spaces. And it's an issue every day. And if it is possible for us to rectify that, I'd like to see that done. As far as the details on the building, I think that's something that would evolve as we looked into it more and more, and it became a more serious effort. There'll be more detailed drawings made, that at some expense, but that's just all part of the process. And anytime anybody would have any questions, I'm available, as well as tonight. If you have any questions for me tonight, we can talk about those.
Chief, would the vision be, and I know we run these cruisers 24/7, right, for the most part, to have all your vehicles in a garage?
There
I mean,
is
would there be enough room, obviously, that you would take care of that?
Yes, the one wing of this particular building, the first level is a garage. To the side of that is a prisoner transport, sally port, where you can come in and secure that before you even get them out of the car, something we don't have now. And then the space above that garage would be the range. So it's a large area, but it's all free space, so it's not an expensive part of the building. You just have the perimeter and then whatever equipment you put in there.
Okay.
Chief, when comparing our facility downstairs to others in surrounding, are we average, above average, below average? What would you say?
We're well behind almost everyone that I work with. Ms. Warren just mentioned being at Jackson. That one may be a little over the top. But if you go to New Philly, I believe it was Chief Grimes at the time. I went with him to Streetsboro, which is, another smaller community. We've been to Fairlawn, a lot of these places. They've all taken this step, and this is why, because of the changes in how things are done and the expectations of the communities and, the responsibilities of the officers. And, it's no small expense, so I think everybody does take it very seriously. But when you look around at virtually every community around here, even the sheriff's department is still at the same site, but more than double the size of their building, within this same time frame.
Good to know.
So, Chief, on the school situation, that's a huge concern now for everybody. And as we grow in the next, say, 5, 10, 15 years, we want to attract a lot of younger families who are concerned about safety in schools. So with this new concept, and I get the consolidation, all that, you got to change with the times. Do you feel that would make it better prepared for the school? I mean, I know you have to be thinking a lot about the schools, how to deal with that.
Right, and we're working with them now to figure out how to get that done. And bottom line to that is it's more personnel, and more personnel means more space. So again, we're right up against it where we're working out of this facility, and you're gonna have any of those additional officers will be coming and going along with everybody else. So, there is room for growth incorporated into this concept, and we'll make sure that it's enough. Obviously, we've grown into the space we had. Maybe back then, people thought this one was too big too. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Chief, do we have, in the event of a crisis, do we have enough space to manage that crisis from our police station right now? I mean, we've obviously got dispatch, but do you have a crisis room where you would gather various parties?
We really don't have any room, and that's where when we do our training, if we do any outside training where we would bring in an instructor and maybe other departments would send people at their own expense, and we send people, we have to do that at the Civic Center, because the biggest room we have downstairs holds 2 banquet tables, and that's basically just for the roll call to get the guys in at the beginning of the
Would
shift.
you ever use up here would you ever use this space up here, or it just doesn't?
It's not really set up for that. I mean, you have the traffic and everything.
Yep.
So you need a nice big vacant house to play in.
Well, that's a different type of training, but in this one, there is a larger room. size has yet to be determined, but the fire department, they have ongoing training requirements as well, and we would both be able to use that room.
Chief, I've noticed numerous times when I come in the building here, there are occasions where officers, or I think mostly officers, are interviewing or talking to people who are in plain clothes. I'm not sure if they're victims, if they're complainants, or what the situation is, but it's in the lobby of the building by the pop machine. Seems to me that that's, when we, in my view, when we start to see stuff like that, there must be some reason why you don't have a space for them to conduct that inside, or there's some safety concerns, or?
It depends on what's going on that day, what that person's there for. If it's something that's going to be a very limited encounter, they may just briefly speak with them and they're on their way. I do speak to that in my letter. That's one of the bigger problems we have down there. We have 2 workstations for the patrol officers to use. And again, with 4, 5, 6 guys on the shift, if they all have something to do, there's no place for them. So somebody ends up waiting or putting something off or trying to find a spot to do the work. And more importantly, when you bring people in, whether they are a victim or a witness or a suspect or just somebody visiting, everybody goes to that same room, which I'm sure you guys are all familiar. When you first walk in our door, that's our only workspace. So you can have an arrestee in there that's belligerent and loud, and you can have somebody else come in that's been victimized, and they got to tell their story just on the other side of a partition. And depending on what's going on, we only have a couple areas in back, where you can try to move some of that off. But again, you're dragging people through the whole facility then, instead of using space that's dedicated for that. If you do tour some of the other facilities, Jackson's is the most apparent, but there's a public interchange area, is best describe it, where you can kind of start separating all those people, and they have a little safe space where somebody runs in, that's being pursued by someone, or something's wrong, they can lock themselves in a room and not have entered your facility, and so they're safe until somebody can get there and take care of them. And that's something I would like to see in this too. It's not a great expense because it's just a small little area, but that's kind of the forefront of where the public would start coming in. And then any prisoners and suspects you can bring in from a different area, so you don't have that interaction.
Chief, I think those are great points, and to emphasize though, even my recommendation is going to be have a committee next week and then another council meeting later, whoever can make it. I think that's something that maybe we can get a tour, look at these things, the public, so they realize your space constraints that you're talking about now and what you envision for the future.
Doug, you could probably look at this facility, and then we could have a tour in other areas.
I think that's key to talk about to the public. If
Yeah.
we're going to move forward with this, if there's consensus to do that, let people in. Well, I know we have open houses. I know that's there, but we still need a refresher, I think, so people can visualize the talking points that you're making, or see them in person, I should say. That makes sense.
You could have an open house there to show people when necessary, the small spaces that you have.
We can do that. We're here all the time. People, we have Cub Scouts in the evenings. We have classes of school kids come in during the day. Friends of employees will call and say, hey, can we come see where you work? It's very easy to get people in and out of there.
Or even next week, as a committee meeting. If you'd be ready to do that.
So you could see how it is?
Exactly.
And see what
if the public wanted to tour it too with us, and we have a committee and discuss, I'm for talking about this as much as we can, as you guys know.
Well, we have to understand it well too, so we
Right,
can make sure we
exactly.
can explain
I haven't been in the police department for years.
Well, you've
in
been a good boy.
certain rooms.
It is very small. I've been down there several
Very small.
times, not personally, but it is very small.
And again, no one set out to complain about the space we have.
Right.
We've taken good care of it. It's clean. We've freshened it up a little bit over the years, and it's not necessarily the condition, it's the functionality. And I think when you come down there and then you go to some of these other buildings, you're really going to see the difference.
Okay. Anybody else for Chief?
No.
Thanks, John.
Chief Bacon wants to weigh in.
Sure, the next
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Also, if I could add, I was not able to be here earlier at the start of the meeting, but just to give you a recap as far as, my perspective is on this.
Do you want Chief Bacon to speak
Oh, yeah,
first,
Chief
or then you can
Yeah.
follow
I
up?
didn't know that he
Yeah.
was, we'll do it online.
John and I have a lot of cross concerns. We have a lot of on the same ideas of what we're doing. I want to first address Daryl's. I think what you were trying to get at is an emergency operations center in case of a lost child, in case of a tornado, in case of something like that. No, we don't. Right now, we're talking the Civic Center. Civic Center gets hit, we'd have to go to the water treatment plant, which is outside the city. And I believe that's where one of our backup radio systems might be, is outside the city. My concept is, and I'm more of a safety-oriented, is an emergency operations center. You don't want it at City Hall. You don't want the public coming here if there's a lost child or something. You're going to have enough crazy stuff going on, so you want it away. The safety center would be one of my plans that would be. The fire station is open house every year. You're welcome at any time to come.
Yeah.
Station 1 has no sleeping quarters, has a kitchen in the basement. The women's room is in the basement. That's the way it was designed when it was a volunteer fire department 47 years ago. It has served us well. We work out of it. It was built for volunteers. We have since moved on from that. The department is growing. The need is growing. Our EMS calls are going up every year as I report to the administration. We're outgrowing our facilities. We have maintenance that needs done. We have no decontamination area. Guys come back with soot. Guys come back from fires. The big buzzword now is cancer. You have cancer on you from every fire. They want you to take a shower. They want you to clean that stuff off. Don't take it home. Don't put it in your personal vehicle and take it home. They don't have that. They have to put it into their vehicle. They have to go home and take a shower. At Station 2, they do have showers in the dorms. When they have, and we do have bed bugs in the city, when they do encounter bed bugs or lice, they have to strip down in the Bay Area, and then they have to go in with a towel wrapped around them so they don't carry their clothes and everything in there that has all that decontamination on them. So there's a need. I want to work with John. I want to work with administration. We want to make this building for the next 47, 50 years. I think it can be done. I'm excited about it. I think that to answer all your questions, I would be available at any time to answer questions or whatever. But we do have a need, and I'll entertain any questions that anybody has.
I'll ask you the same question. Where do we stand compared to our facilities, compared to everyone else in the county, let's say? Below, above, in the middle?
We're below. If you look at Plain Township, just built a very nice, beautiful station. Yes. Minerva has a beautiful station. Jackson, we won't even compare ourselves to Jackson. Greentown, up the street, is a private fire department. Their station is twice what we have currently right now. So we're below. We just did put some, like John, I did put some money in Station 2, bring it up to a current level with the plans with Laura that all that would be reused, the stove, the hood, everything, the chairs would be reused to go into the next building. But we are below where everybody else is. But it's not a comfort. It's not a comfort thing that we're looking at. We don't have the room. At Station 2, which Laura alluded to, was built as a park department. My engine fits with 1 foot in the front and 1.5 feet with the back. We have to walk sideways in between that truck. The 2 ambulances are nose to tail. There is no other room up there. That was built for a park department back when it was built. The fire station was built, like I said, 47 years ago. The trucks have not done nothing but get bigger, and we have no room in that station either. There is no more office space. All of the storage is in my office and in the captain's office, as I put into your letters.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Anybody else? Appreciate it.
Good
Eric, you want
information.
to weigh in, or will you start the council?
I think Mr. Neff was going to,
I'm sorry.
presentation.
Bill, did you have some comments you wanted to make as well?
Yeah, I just want to say that what the chiefs are saying is what they really need. I was on the fire department and got on in 72 and retired in 2002. And in 1982, I was a fire safety inspector, which meant that I could go in and inspect these buildings. Well, at that time, and during the years I was doing that, I could see the space was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It even got to the point one time when I was down at the police department, we were out in the garage area, and there was a room there, and I asked what was in that room, and they said, that's your evidence room. And it's a closet. I mean, they moved from where they had to go to that position. So what the chiefs are saying is something that we desperately need. 20 years ago when we first started talking about this building, it was a need then. And we had like 3 pounds of stuff in a 2-pound bag at that time. Now we're at about 25 pounds, still in that 2-pound bag. And so, like Chief Bacon was saying, that the fire trucks have got larger and bigger. You got to walk sideways. When I got on the fire department, Chief Forney was our chief. He was a physical fitness guy. And we used to run inside the fire station, run around the fire trucks. Well, you couldn't do that now. I mean, and just since I left, I can see how much stuff they have in there that, I mean, they got stuff crammed in there everywhere. EMS is the same thing. So we're at a point that we have to do something. And I agree with you, Mark, that we have to get the word out and let everybody know. The chiefs are more than welcome to open up their buildings so you can come in and see what they have and see how crowded it really is. And I think once you get in there and you see what we have now and what we need, it's something that we really need. And I'm more than positive than sure that the community out here is going to support us. They have always supported the safety forces. And that's really appreciative. And the safety forces work together pretty good. I know when I was very happy when I was going down to the fire scene and I saw red and blue police lights at the scene where I was supposed to go. And so, the departments work well together. And we like to train together, but we don't have the space. So we're looking at a building that's fairly large, but it's something that we're going to be looking at for the next 50 years. And when I approached Mr. Grimes 2 years ago about this, I told him I should be up here talking to you about maybe updates of the building that we should have had 20 years ago, that we don't have. So he agreed with it. So I'm just saying that I think we have to move forward with this sooner the better.
Thanks,
for the guys, for the community, for your men and women that are working for our safety.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think one thing too is you can look at our buildings, but you have to go see what other people have. What you don't know, you don't know. So you need to go to Greene or Jackson or, other places and see, because the opportunities, that they were talking about with their detectives and the chiefs meet, I think, every Monday morning out in Jackson. And I don't know if you guys do that too, but to be able to see each other and touch base on different incidences that happened and your EMS is right there and different things, it just creates a whole different, I think, dynamic and collaborative ideas that you can have, throughout the day, the week, the month, and take into, the next generation. So you can go look at these buildings, but you have to see what else is available at the other places.
Harold?
Is it possible to take some photos and get them on our website that just kind of capture current situation, and then if somebody wanted to take to Stephanie's point of field trip, we could do a nice little video, compare and contrast to some of the other communities that have something like we're proposing, not the Taj out in Jackson, but maybe 18,000 square feet that Plain just put up on Schneider and Minerva. So people have a real sense. I think that was the issue back in the late 90s when we looked at this. The trucks had gotten bigger, and we just had literally run out of space.
As far as the website and Facebook, like I said, I have that question and answer sheet in your packet that my idea was, if you guys choose to move forward, to go ahead and post that this evening. My long-term idea was to add to that, as questions come in from residents, as the chiefs receive inquiries, to just keep adding at the bottom until we have every question answered that we can. And
Right.
we can certainly add pictures, video, whatever we
Right.
can get to that as well.
Let's try to take advantage of, I'm shocked to say this, social media.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hey,
you need to.
get Daryl
They
out
have
of
to
the
see what
21st
else is out
century.
there. And I think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, Chief Bacon or Chief Minnick, I think Jackson would be fine with letting people come over. I mean, they were more than willing to let us come, and Chief Bacon has a special attachment there that he may be able to ask. Yes.
Okay,
Dave?
yeah.
you
Mayor, you want to
Okay,
weigh in?
yes.
I want to know how you feel.
So, you know, when we're looking at the safety service building, there's been a lot of consideration since I first started here back as the administrator. This was in 2001. There were plans to put up a safety service building, and it just never. It was something that it was not a priority. And then, of course, after I started serving as the mayor, you start to see what the real needs of the safety service department is. And really, the reason we're looking at this is it's not as much about what the other communities have. It's really what we need in order to provide a state-of-the-art service that the people in North Canton have come to expect. And there's, I would say, number one, it's about cost efficiency and effectiveness. So I'll give you one example on a smaller scale. We used to take our storm sewers. We have hundreds of storm sewers, and we would repair them with bricks and mortar. And then we found when we were repairing them, as they would start to sink, we'd go back and 5, 6 years later, we're replacing the very storm sewer that has the high activity and the salt that's degrading the mortar. And we realized that it's like we've got to find a more cost-efficient way to do this. So we looked at other communities, and they had the precast. So you have one large precast system you put in the ground. Well, the initial response was, oh, this is going to be too expensive. Oh, is it really? If you look at it over the next 2 to 3 years, there's an expense, but when you're looking at it over the next 20, 30, 40 years, that's what we have to have our vision for. It can't be for next year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, because if our vision is the next 2 to 3 years, then we will get left behind. And so right now, we're looking at where we need to be at the next 20 to 30 years. And when you look at the cost efficiency and effectiveness of our police department and our fire and EMS department, there is no doubt we are one of the most cost-efficient fire and EMS departments in the state of Ohio. And the reason I say that is that we have a combination department where we have full-time fire medics, and we also are supported, we supplement that through our, I hate to use the word part-time fire medics, but they're paid part-time, but really the service they provide and the training is the same as all of our full-timers. We also have our full-time fire medics now for the first time in the history of the city, and there's very few around the state that have fire medic training and inspection training. So they're doing the inspections. So we're much more cost efficient than that. And then you look at the police department and the needs of the police department, and we have to look at the safety aspect, because right now, when somebody is apprehended, we don't have a cell. It's usually the chair that they're handcuffed to. And so we have to be looking forward. And this, I would look at it as an investment into the future. Safety to the residents and to the people who work in North Canton, that has always been our #1 priority. And so I would look at this not as much as oh, the building is old, because old buildings, I like old buildings. I think old buildings are nice. I think when you look at the Hoover District, you redevelop old buildings, I think it's a good thing. But when you have the fire and EMS department that are in separate buildings, we need to bring them together along with the police department, because there's a lot of synergy when you have all of the safety service employees in the same building, from a training perspective, from an emergency response perspective. And it's again, let's look at the next, 20 to 30 years and where we need to be. And that's where we need to start, that's where our steps need to be over the next 2, 3, and 4 years.
Okay, appreciate your comments, Mayor. Member Rule.
Laura, what is the drop dead date in August to have this to the Board of Elections?
August 8th.
August 8th.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
So, do we want to move it to, let's see, what's next week?
next week's the 18th.
So is that
We have, if you turn your page over in council sheet, there's a little list of dates. It's got to be determined.
I think when I talked to Jeff, I think we're planning on meeting. So,
I won't be,
You can't make it?
I won't be here next week.
Okay.
That's the only time.
Jeff will be.
Jeff will be here. I plan on,
yeah,
Well, you only need a quorum to be
we need
here.
a quorum just to keep the first reading, second,
Yes,
going
that's
through.
it.
I mean, that could be committee, then we have a first reading the 25th. You'd still have to pass 2 of them,
Yeah.
hopefully at the end of
And I
July.
know-
You don't want to cut it too close.
right. No, I know Jeff had said too that, if we have a number of public speaks meetings, and
Right.
we may do different meetings not on a Monday, so that if people can't make it Monday, they can come another day. Maybe there's lunch times, but definitely want the public input. We just wanted to start the conversation tonight that's been going on for 20 years, and just see where,
Well,
where.
why don't we
it
just
goes.
have a regular committee meeting next week, then our first reading will be June 25th. And if we want to move off of that.
What was it, next week council? Next week is council, we get its first
No,
reading next
it'd be a regular committee meeting technically. If we were following the old format.
Is it today?
We have the second and fourth Mondays would be the council.
Are there extra Mondays then?
The 18th should be a committee of
No.
the whole.
And the 25th would be the first reading. We could do the field trip downstairs next Monday.
To Mark's
Memorable.
point, and maybe Laura and Pat could put together a sort of task checklist of activities that we would like to accomplish in terms of our own gathering our own information and then public availability that we need to have accomplished by no later than July 30th. I don't think we're going to be able to move this very quickly, but we want to make sure we've touched
Right.
everything.
Well, I think if it depends on what the tentative schedule is for the council, but if you had the first reading on the 18th, typically 2 weeks later, that's going to put you to the July 4th week, so we're not going to have a meeting then. So then your second reading, it sounds like July 9th, and then if you did it 2 weeks later, July 23rd,
Right, but we're, I
that's if you're starting next week.
think we're trying to take some time off over the summer as well, so.
Well, that's okay.
Well, I mean, again, for the purposes of this, you just need a quorum
Right,
Right.
to advance it to
So
the
could
next
we give
meeting.
it a first reading next week?
right. and it's
Even
second
having
reading
a
the
meeting
25th.
before, if we do the field trip before?
You have to have a special council meeting next week?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know the difference between 18th and 25th for first reading. We're still coming back in July for 2 readings.
No, because the 25th, we could have the second reading.
I wouldn't be in
No.
favor of that.
No, I didn't say that. I said,
Yeah.
if you did it June 18th, then you wouldn't be back to have a second reading until July 9th.
Well, why would we do it June 18th if we're not, June 25th is a council meeting, so why not
That's
just wait
what
till the
that's
June
why I said
25th?
earlier, just have committee, June 25th, we have a regular council meeting. Have our first reading. Still gives us a month.
Still come back July 9th.
Still gives
for
us a
second.
month.
Yeah, it's still happening July 9th and July 23rd. then.
Right,
But normally we're not here July 23rd,
correct.
Well,
Or the ninth?
so
So, you know,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, and I know
This
Jeff was
schedule change took
flexible.
some of us by surprise,
Well,
that
yeah,
you're not gonna make everybody happy on vacations. As long as there's 4 people here that are affirmative for this, that's the main concern.
Yeah.
To me, it's 4 to 6 weeks of talking about it in the public.
Right.
That's critical to me. Not a first reading and then a second reading, June 25th, and all, well, we got pretty good support. I think that's the wrong approach to this. I think we need to answer questions, be transparent. Listen, we know we got great safety forces. This isn't a question of how well our police and fire and EMS operate. Those guys are great. It's just justifying this tax increase
Yeah.
and crossing Ts and dotting Is and letting the people weigh in.
No shortcuts to this. We
No.
have to make sure that we're getting.
And whoever can't be there and miss a couple meetings, that's fine. I'm gonna miss a meeting depending on when the date
Right.
is. That's all.
Well, and I think when Jeff made the schedule, to be fair, I mean, he was trying to accommodate him being here, and he knew other people had issues. He
I
knew you were gone,
understand.
he was gone, so I think that's why he said there was not gonna be any meeting to be determined. So he was trying to accommodate those. So we're flexible. I think also you can be flexible in the sense that if you have a meeting on a Monday and to accommodate people, there may be one on a Thursday. There may be a public speaks, there may be a public meeting. Who knows?
Exactly. We can
Summer
weigh in
can be
on that
flexible.
later.
Yes.
Well,
More information to come.
I was just
Right.
gonna say, I think we addressed what the concerns were to get it started, so
Yeah.
just set the dates and let's rock and roll.
Okay, so we'll go committee next Monday and then first reading June 25th. Just as a usual schedule.
7 o'clock?
And can we put out the 9th and the 23rd as dates as well, or should I?
Well, we can do that next,
Let's wait.
week.
I want Jeff.
prefer Jeff, the
I
president,
want
be here
Jeff
to
here.
discuss that with everybody.
I think he's
'Cause
gonna be
not here-
flexible
he's
and
not
move
here.
things.
So we'll get him to weigh in on
I
that
just
too.
don't want to put it out to the public, website, social media and that,
Okay.
if we're not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
put it out.
Thank you.
All right.
Sounds good.
Okay, I think, is there a motion to adjourn the special committee meeting?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Was that your role? Maybe we're stealing your thunder? All right. All right, thank you. Okay, let's call to order our regular council meeting for Monday, June 11th, 2018. The time is like 7:37, I believe.
Correct.
Close enough to that. Opening prayer by Reverend Rich Holmes, Northminster Presbyterian Church. Thank you, Reverend.
Oh, I feel so bad.
Let us pray. Almighty God, for all your blessings to our city, for its cleanliness and tranquility, for the beauty of our parks and monuments, for the excellence of our schools and libraries, for our police, our firefighters, our teachers and librarians, for those who collect revenue and those who work on the roads, and all those who work in public service, we give you thanks, O God. And this evening we ask that those who are meeting here would allow your presence to dwell with them, so that they would listen to each other with patience, speak and vote with courage, and govern with justice and wisdom. For we know that these are the gifts which make democracies flourish, and these are the gifts which have made our city flourish. And it's in your name that we pray, O God. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mary Beth, can you please call the roll?
Soretta.
Here?
Folds.
Here.
Fontaine.
Here.
Kiesling.
Here.
Revolt.
Here.
And Wheeler. Here. 6 present, Mr. President.
Motion to excuse Member Peters.
So moved.
Second?
Folds.
Yes.
Fontaine.
Yes.
Kiesling.
Yes.
Revolt.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
And Soretta.
Yes.
6 yes to excuse Council President Peters.
For your consideration and move to approve as presented, Committee of the Whole meetings minutes of May 7th, 2018 and May 21st, 2018. Council meeting minutes of May 14th, 2018. Executive session minutes, May 14th, 2018. Special council meeting minutes of June 4th, 2018. And Mayor's court receipts for May 2018. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 6.
Thank you. Visitors, before you come up and speak to us, we welcome all your comments. Please be professional, timely, and know that once you sit down, there'll be no other disturbances from the audience. We want your respect, but we also, respect you, so it's a two-way street. So let's have a good public speaks portion, knowing that we're here after the meeting to discuss anything you want to that's on your minds or on the agenda. With that, I'll open up to anybody who wants to address council and the administration.
Good evening. Melanie J. Roll, 308 40th Street, North Canton. So many topics, so little time. First, is the timing right for North Canton City income tax increase? While I understand the wisdom of having all safety forces in the same location, wasn't there a recent upgrade to the city fire station? Second, tax incentives. Before embarking on reestablishing a CRA, why not evaluate those properties given tax incentives in the past? Currently, there are 2 properties through Turk, LMD Properties and Insight Realty. LMD, the DeHoff property, is 50% exemption for 12 years. Insight Realty is a 50% exemption for 15 years. As both properties are 50% exemptions, the North Canton schools received no input on these tax incentives, and they lost revenue. There are 3 residential properties, 331 Harmon, 100% for 15 years, 307 Fairview, 100% for 10 years on remodeling, which has now been off the books because that was 10 years has lapsed. And of course, Northridge, 100% for 12 years. And the schools lost revenue on all these properties as well. Is it any wonder the school district is leery of city government? Third, the schools and the city are intertwined. Each needs the other to thrive, and it is my belief if the schools begin to fail, the city will follow. It is also my belief that it is council's responsibility to see the school district receives all property tax income that voters choose to direct to the school district. The war between the schools and the city that began in 2016 now has escalated. There is a fight for dollars. I echo Superintendent Wendorf's statement to you. Use city money for economic development. The Children's Hospital Complex is a good model. Fourth, the housing stock. Instead of giving tax incentives to a few owner-occupied dwellings, it's past time to enforce the exterior housing code. Concentrate on revitalizing neighborhoods by prodding homeowners to comply with existing code, and hire an additional nuisance inspector to help with an overall plan to regularly canvass the city for violations. Fifth, rental registration. This program allows city inspectors to verify the safety of rental units, plus address other maintenance issues. This program could be a vital component of revitalizing the city's housing stock. In closing, use the Children's Hospital Complex as a model to add jobs. Improve the housing stock with code enforcement. Partner with the schools. They are the city's strongest tool for economic development. If you continue to fight with the schools, we're all going to lose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address council?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street, Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. Mr. Foltz, I'd like to pick up on what you said about civility up here. If you will muzzle your pit bull here, we wouldn't have these problems. I'm all done with that.
Please stick to an issue to
maintain
talk about,
control of the building,
and not direct at any person.
Maintain control of the meeting, and there's no reason for Mr. Fox to respond.
Would you just have your comments on the issue?
Citizens are not asking for legal opinions. All right, with that said, I was very unnerved last week after hearing Mr. Diorio say he had met with the schools and they said no CRA residential abatements. Unbelievably, you embark on discussing CRA residential abatements. Why? I agree with Mrs. Roll, and I've said it before at school board meetings and here. The schools are your strongest economic driver of this community. Spouses of 2 council members who are employed with the schools. And you guys are going to continue to give away school revenue, and then you're going to scratch your head and say, oh, my wife just got her pink slip today. They can't afford to pay her. And you're going to scratch your head and say, wonder why that happened. Please support the schools. Now, as far as some of the reports on the income tax, everybody seems to be proud as peach up here to say, we have kept our income tax at 1.5% since 1971. I think you ought to be ashamed. You have denied resources to maintain streets, facilities, and you've denied yourself this. Here we are 20 years later, and we're just now discussing this again. Mayor Held, I supported you years ago, right after you were first elected as mayor. You wanted to have an income tax increase. This council, for some reason, didn't want to do that. Here we are 12 years later, and finally realizing, oh my God, we need more revenue in order to provide these services. I have to commend Chief Bacon, the police department. They have made do with little or nothing to provide the best in services, and that's what we got. This is all because you thought it was great to have a low income tax rate. And what is that getting you? We have no place to lure business to this community anyway. We're a bedroom community. Where are you going to entice somebody to with these low rates? There's no place to put them. And when you had an opportunity down here with Omni Orthopedics, you didn't even want to annex it, 75 jobs. So there is no logic up here. And it just blew my mind to see people who have no idea what they're doing, picking and choosing on that CRA. Well, let's change this here, and let's change that there. It kind of reminded me of a 10-year-old sitting in the cockpit of an airplane, wanting to just monkey with this switch and that control and this and that, with no idea what you're doing. Mr. Foltz, I also agree with you earlier when you said we probably had a better opportunity back when Hoover was downsizing to get an income tax increase. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for you, even though I fully support it. I will vote for it, but I think you're going to have an uphill battle now. Mr. Revolt, splitting the revenue for this project between property and income is not the way to go. You're putting the burden on senior citizens on fixed income. So that's kind of, and I do like your schedule for coming up here. There's no reason to rush into a first reading next week. You're going to need to fully explain this. Let the press put this out there. So again, I applaud you for a good decision on that.
Okay.
And I don't need any rebuts from Mr. Fox. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to address council? Ladies first. Okay. Yes.
Good evening. Emil Grederson, 10988 Sagebrush Avenue Northeast, Uniontown, Ohio, and associate pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church. Just wanted to do a couple of things real quick here. First, thank you again for your service. I was listening to the radio last week, and they were talking about LeBron James had this thing on the bottom of his shoe. He had written on the back, it's called the Arena. And there's a long Teddy Roosevelt quote that kind of goes with it. I won't read it for you tonight, but basically the bottom line is that you may win, you may lose, you may make great decisions, you may not make the greatest decisions, you might look back and wish you did something different, but if you're in the arena, you're doing something most people aren't. And so LeBron James, they got swept, and it wasn't fun, but they were on the court, they had the opportunity to play. So I just encourage you to keep doing the best you can, and if you need anything, I'm here to help you. We are praying for you. And that's actually the one reason why I did come here initially. Didn't realize all of the discussion that I'd be coming to here tonight, but I am now taking care of scheduling the invocations, the prayers, the opening prayers. Pastor Diana Thompson is unable to continue to do that, and so I raised my hand and said, hey, I'll do that, but I need your help and the help of the community, all those that are going to be listening to this, to let me know of the pastors, rabbis, religious leaders in the faith community that would be willing to come here and help open up these meetings, because clearly there's a lot of tough topics. There's a lot of confusion sometimes. There's things that come up that we didn't necessarily expect, and tough decisions that need to be made. And I think that moment at the beginning is helpful in centering all of us to make sure we're treating each other with respect and making sure that we remember what our collective interest is and that we're in this together. So if you have any names, anyone you want to suggest that I can reach out to with your information, Pastor, P-A-S-T-O-R, .Grederson, G-R-E-T-A-R-S-S-O-N, @gmail.com. Just send me an email, and I will make sure to get in touch with anyone that's got any thoughts on a prayer or reflective thoughts, anything that they'd like to do to contribute to help set the tone for each meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miriam.
Miriam Broughan, 320 Weber Avenue. I sat here tonight and listened to all the justification and reasons for why you wanted your new building. I sat through every school informational meeting at the different schools. I heard the same reasons. New buildings, consolidate the buildings. They'll be more cost-effective, the utilities will be less. Schools are not set up for technology. Technology is the new way to teach. The middle school has Band-Aids all over their heating and cooling system. The systems are so old, you can't buy new parts. And what did the residents say? The residents said in all the meetings, North Canton's education's great in the old buildings. You don't need new buildings. Stephanie, you said go look at the other communities, how far behind we are in the safety forces buildings. That's what Superintendent Wendorf said. Go look at the buildings. Look at Jackson School buildings. Look at Canton City. They have all new grade schools. Louisville has a newer high school, junior high, and a big new castle of a grade school. North Canton schools have the oldest school buildings in Stark County. So look at any building for your safety forces and compare it with Greentown School, which has to be 100 years old. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to address council?
Well, good evening. Hopefully it's a familiar face. Steve Wilder, 1210 Glen Abbey Avenue Northeast, North Canton, Ohio. I come before the council tonight with some good news regarding our North Canton Community Energy Savers Program. And I just wanted to give you an update as where we are in our progress for that. During the April 2nd council meeting, members of council voiced support for this program. And tonight I just want to give you a progress report from for the North Canton Community Energy Savers Program. Our background is this. On Monday, April the 16th, I had was invited by Director of Administration Patrick DiOrio. We met. He discussed this investment opportunity for our community proposed by AEP Ohio.
And after our discussion, I said, this is a go for us. I agreed to chair this project for the city of North Canton. So during the month of April through May, we had weekly meetings, and I'll get to who we are shortly, with the AEP support program and staff, and with their marketing team, and also with our community team members supporting and promoting this program. I want to make you aware of who our team members are. First of all, Mayor David Held, Patrick Diorio, Director of Administration, Justine Avery, our Administrative Assistant, and from our community partners, we have Doug Lane, President of the North Canton Area Chamber of Commerce, and from our North Canton Public Library, we have a green team. And real quickly, those Christina Wyrick, Community Relations Manager, Carrie Burrick, our Outreach Services Manager, Jamie Macris, our Children's Department Head, and Nancy Myers, our Patron of Services Manager. We also have about 5 AEP project consultants and advisors working with us on this project, and also about 4 members from the AEP marketing team as we go forward in promotion of this Energy Savers program. On May 29th, we signed a program of implementation plan with the city, and we signed off on that, and it is in progress. Now, I want to make you aware of what our program goals are, and we confirmed these as our participation goal is 400 points. Part of the AEP Ohio program is they have certain levels that we could work towards securing a grant for our city. We chose the middle of the road, and the middle of the road qualifies us that if we can get 400 points through our community in support of the program, we would qualify for a $30,000 grant. And that grant, we decided to promote and apply it to the renovation of our Dogwood Park project. We want to have better lighting there for our residents and citizens, so that's going to go to the upgrades of Dogwood Park, especially with the LED efficiency lighting. Our timeline, we started counting participations actually May 15th with the official kickoff, but June 1st through September the 30th. I gave us a 4-month window to push this program, and I think we can do that within 4 months. Our printing location is right here locally. All our printing materials are coming through Repros, right here at 607 South Main Street in North Canton. And on the website, not only here in the city, but at aepohio.com, all you have to do is look for the North Canton Community Energy Savings Program. And that will get you to where we want you to go, put it that way. Some of our marketing initiatives, quickly, we had over 550 members of the North Canton Chamber of Commerce. They received a flyer in their newsletter, went out to their members. Our North Canton Energy Savers program called Start Saving Energy and Money Today. Our water bill inserts that will go out in July, we'll have an insert in there identifying our project for them to participate in. Our website is also available through the city, the chamber, and the library. We have links to this project on those. And also we are involved in various community events involving a number of things. For example, the North Canton Library, we had a kickoff there. We reached over 1,200 people in providing information to participate in our program. Our area Chamber of Commerce, of course, we'll have something at Main Street Festival, and we'll be down there for the whole weekend to introduce this program to our residents and citizens and visitors. And of course, any of our North Canton city-wide events will also be over at the 720 Pop-Up Market on July the 14th, to help promote this program. All I'm asking from council is your support in contacting any of your constituents. Thank you, Mark. Or whoever you meet within our city, because this only applies to AEP Ohio customers. I want to make that clear. And that's basically within our city limits. And I apologize for going over, but I wanted to give you a quick update. In front of you, may I be indulged for a couple extra minutes?
Sure.
Thank you, President. In front of you, I just gave you a handout, and that's our initial flyer that went out. We have one that says North Canton Energy Savers Program. We also had one for the library, and we had one that was dovetailed for the chamber. And that the first page talks about our program goals. And if we only reach 50% of our goal, AEP Ohio will provide us a sustainability roadmap for the next 3 years as a recommendation of how we can become better efficient with our lighting and our services here. And just not lighting though, whether it's appliances, home improvements, things like this. If we reach our 100% of our goal, then we will not only get the sustainability roadmap, but we'll also qualify for that $30,000 grant. And the second page was just some of the energy efficient programs. And the main one there that I want you to focus on is I think that would really help our residents is just simply a home energy profile. It's where you go to our website and take 10 minutes to fill out an energy profile, and it helps give you a ballpark on the speed dial there as to what your cost is and what some of your cost savings could be, depending on whether you have insulation in your home, basement, the windows, what kind of electricity or gas that you're using, things like that. And for all of you, on the third page is a step-by-step, okay, process how to take you through that website, okay?
That's it.
It's very, very simple.
Thank you.
And so if you haven't gone online and do that yet, I have done it, and it's very simple. Make sure that you remember, there is no campaign code, all right, when you get to a little section. Just continue on, and when you get to the bottom, our last page, fill in your information, but make sure you put the little check mark there, and you'll get a safety kit or a energy efficiency kit. If you're electric, you get 4 light bulbs, you get a night light, you get a new shower head, okay, for reducing our costs there, and or water usage, put it that way, and a new swivel nozzle and also an aerator. If you're gas, you only get the light bulbs, okay? Sorry about all the other stuff. You might get a night light, I don't know. But at any rate,
and Chief, and all of those things are provided by AEP, is that correct?
Yes, AEP Ohio provides all those, and that takes about 6 to 8 weeks. But hopefully you'll get a little box in the mail with those things, thanking you for simply completing a profile. That information is safe, it's protected, and it's not going to be used for anything else other than supporting us. So our goal is to get those 400 credits. Now, if it's a multifamily, we have to have 5 units there, and we'll get bonus points for that. But that has to be, those apartments have to be metered, okay? They just can't be 1 meter for, I guess, for 4 apartments, something like that, or 5. But I'll be around. I can ask or try to answer any questions for you, but I just want to give you a quick update that we are up and running, and we're going, and we've been logging in information. Mark.
Steve, first of all, thank you for chairing this.
You're welcome. My pleasure, man.
I actually went on this morning. Kathy reminded me yesterday at the picnic, so I went on this morning. It took 3 or 4 minutes. It's very short with that. So one of my questions is, can my wife then go on and do the same thing because she lives in the same household and we get a point for that?
No. Okay. 1 point. You did it.
All right. That's what I thought you kind of said, sort of that, but kind of.
Yes, I thought about that too, but AEP Ohio representative says, no, Steve, it's just 1 per household. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Chief. And really, this wasn't more public speaks. You were presenting a program that we're all involved with, so that's why you're granted the latitude to talk about this great program that hopefully we can all be involved with. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I'll stick around for any other comments or anything.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Thank you, folks.
Anybody else like to address council? We're going to limit our comments here to the end of the meeting. Thank you, Mayor. Anybody else want to address council? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to new business. Mary Beth, you ready? Okay, do I have a motion to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 46, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 6. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton, Ohio to enter into a successor collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, Dispatch and Lead Dispatcher regarding state employment relations board, SER, case number 2017 MED 10-1312, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, thank you. We'll have our law director address this, please.
Yes, sir. This is one of 2 collective bargaining agreements that we're asking the authority of the mayor to enter into these agreements. The first one involves the city and the dispatch and lead dispatcher union. And just like the one after that for the patrol officers, these were part of the collective bargaining process. The first one ended a little bit earlier because both the union and the city accepted the fact finder's report and recommendation. Key provisions that were acquired in each of these is to remove the Sunday overtime that was automatic and banned the medical marijuana provision that we added to our drug testing article. So although each of these are on emergency provisions, right now we have 5. We can still have one reading. It won't pass on emergency, but we can still count it as a reading. So I ask council to pass this measure, permitting the mayor to enter into the bargaining agreement with dispatcher.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from council? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 46, 2018?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 7,
Do
or
it.
6.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules for 3 readings for ordinance number 46, 2018?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 6.
Do I have a motion then to approve under suspension of the rules for ordinance number 46, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 6.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to read by title only the first reading of ordinance number 47, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 6. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton, Ohio, to enter into a successor collective bargaining agreement between the city and Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association patrol officers regarding State Employment Relations Board, SERB, case number 2017, MED 10-1313, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Just a point of clarification, Member Warren had to leave the meeting, so we're approving with 5 at this point. Okay, thank you. Any other comments from our law director on this, or approval?
We just did do that on emergency, didn't we?
Can't do it on emergency.
It won't pass as emergency, it'll simply pass as a reading.
You cannot have an emergency clause.
That is
voted
correct.
to defeat.
Correct, and it
So you can pass it.
doesn't pass with 5.
Well,
It's just the simple reading.
then you've got to have an amendment to strip out the emergency clause.
We have to
You have an
go
emergency.
back to 46 then, though.
You will. I'm going to make a motion to reconsider ordinance number 46-2018.
Second.
Clerk?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5.
I would like to make a motion for item 8, ordinance number 46-2017.
2018.
Excuse me, 18, that it be amended to strike the emergency clause.
There's motion and second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5.
I move that we adopt the first reading of ordinance number 46-2018.
So moved.
Second.
You moved it.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5.
Okay, thank you. Point of clarification, is this something that needs done quicker than 2 weeks from tonight?
No, 2 weeks from tonight is fine.
Sufficient for both?
Yes, sir.
readings? Okay. Now let's go to 47, 2018. We read the first reading.
We need to adopt. Did we adopt?
We adopted first.
46-18?
I believe
We've
we
read
did.
it. Did we adopt it?
We did not
We did not adopt, okay,
And
motion.
I'd like to have a motion to adopt the first reading of ordinance 46-2018.
Did you make that motion, or?
I'm making that motion.
Okay,
Can I have a
second.
for 47, 2018.
46 or 47?
46.
46, 2018. I think we did, but we're gonna do it again, all right?
No
Okay.
problem with that.
Yeah, we'll do it twice.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5.
Thank you. Now, point of clarification, we just read, we need a motion to read 47, 2018. Do we have to adjust our
Yeah,
motions as we do?
I think you can read it and then amend it.
Okay. So do I have a motion to read?
Well, hold a second here. I think
Can't we leave the emergency clause in it and not suspend the
We
rules?
just pass first read.
Right,
just do
exactly.
first reading.
Okay. Do I have a motion to read by title only the first reading of 47-2018?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5. An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton, Ohio to enter into a successor collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association patrol officers regarding State Employment Relations Board, CERB, case number 2017 MED 10-1313, and declaring the same to be an emergency.
Okay, we go back to our law director, if there's any additional comment?
No, sir, this simply is similar collective bargaining agreement, the same time period for 3 years. This is for the patrol officers. And again, the two key areas for this bargaining agreement is the removal of the Sunday overtime, and this is banning the medical marijuana. And what's unique on this one, just for a point of information, is that this actually went to conciliation. So it's a conciliator's award. It's an order for us to enter into this agreement. So as we had done with the prior one, we're simply asking to adopt the first reading of 47, 2018.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the first reading of 47, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carried by unanimous voice vote of 5.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Revolt, for the clarification on the emergency clause. Okay, that said, reports to council. Member Fonte.
Thanks, everybody who spoke tonight, and I also want to say thanks, Steve, for stepping up on the energy savings program. You know, this is just a quick thought for me, just knowing how people, how people are, is to get the team together with iPads during the 720 and the parade, or what? Not the parade, but the festival and so forth, and then just sign them up right on the spot. So I don't know if you're planning on doing that, but I would recommend that. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Member Keesling.
I have no report other than say Stephanie did have to leave for a work commitment.
I understand.
She was driving Charleston tonight.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, Member Revolt. Member Serrata.
A couple of things. First of all, good discussion tonight. That's the way it should be. Picnic. Had a great picnic. I want to thank Laura and her crew. Put that together yesterday. That I don't know when the last one was, but I thought it was a very good turnout, especially for the first one. And I hope it just grows and grows. And that's the kind of, you need that little kind of, what do you want to call it? The collaboration, camaraderie, collaboration outside of work sometimes with see people's children and everything. So thank you for doing that. Very, very well done. I'll just give you guys a quick update on the Gold Star. I know you're tired of hearing that, but you'll hear it from me until the end. Pucci poured the actual pad. You saw the pictures I sent on Friday. You know, I got to help him. I wanted to put my fingerprints in it, but he wouldn't let me. I put my initials and the date and all that stuff. So. Brian Hill's been working with us very closely. Just today, we removed took the water fountain over to the side. We got the flags ordered. We had an issue there where we didn't have the poles, and his diligence on that, it looks like we're gonna get those poles, and Pucci will probably pour those this week. I cannot stress enough the amount of donations that have been put into this, and the people that have come forward, the overtime that they paid their people to do this kind of thing. So we want to make sure that when we see those folks, to thank them, over and over again. And there'll be a list of those as we come out at the end here with that. But it's coming along pretty good, and we're looking forward to that July 7th deadline and the extravaganza we're going to have here on July 7th.
That's great. Hey, thanks for your hard work on this.
Oh, I love it. It's good stuff.
This is good stuff, and appreciate the time you put into this to be able to address council.
And I can't stress Dr. Novelli's just all over.
We got some great people in this community, don't we? Remember,
And this is a question for the administration. Could we have a temporary sign created that acknowledges the donors to this that could be placed there and left for a period of time after
It's a great idea.
the dedication?
It's a great idea. It
And
doesn't
have it permanent.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well,
I
we
mean,
get
there's
them all.
something already, I think they're putting into place.
So
but
Mark, you can work,
something else. That's a good idea.
Oh, you're saying
I mean,
short
I think you're
term
right.
for
There's
the,
something he's putting into place. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it might be for just recently, you had like Dave Matthews stepped forward and did some of the rebar and this stuff like that. And, that's not huge stuff, but that's the little stuff that we need and the people that are willing more so to come forward and do that. That's the idea of the whole thing.
And the other point is too, we know what's going on because you've kept everybody up to date. We've been part of meetings with you, but maybe just future sight of a real quick, and then thank you for our current donation companies or people.
Yeah.
And then people that come here and enjoy our beautiful city, don't live here, will see what's going on. So that's great because we're less than a month away, right?
Yeah.
For the dedication.
Yeah.
So that's great, good stuff. All right, thank you. My comments, I'm gonna comment now, it's kind of in order, but Melanie, thank you for your comments on housing, the exterior housing codes. It's near and dear to me, as you know, and Miriam, and the Wolfters and Wolftons, and different people in the community. I think we need to get there. We don't want to penalize rental or landlord people, but we also want to know that they're bringing their places up to code too. And this is a great community to live in. Just make sure you're upholding your end of the bargain. Is what you're doing with your housing and your renters. That's all we're asking, and well said. So thank you for that. Our law director?
No report. Thank you.
Finance director?
Thank you to Mark for his nice comments about the picnic. We had over 70 people between employees and families there yesterday, even despite the kind of rough weather. It held out just long enough. I want to thank the Wellness Committee for putting that together. Chief Bacon's one of those committee members, and even some of his crew stayed till the bitter end and helped us clean up, so much appreciated. My only other item is, some of you may remember several years ago, the State Treasurer's Department had the open checkbook website and program that they did. North Canton participates in that. I updated that today for our 2017 data. We usually wait until our auditors have been in and kind of given us a pass on their first pass through. So that data is out there if anybody wants to look at every transaction we had in 2017. It's at open checkbook through the State Treasurer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Administration, Pat?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple items. Wanted to make sure that I thanked our local news media for their coverage of the opening of our portico. They were there at the beginning, they were here at the end, and I think they were an important part to make that happen. We started to see some of the benefits of that. The North Canton Public Library held their first of 3 summer concert series here last week. It'll be also on the first Thursday in July and in August. This one was a New Orleans Creole Cajun kind of theme. For their very first time having it in the evening, they had a food truck out front of City Hall. There were a lot of people here. We brought up chairs from the Civic Center, put them out for them to use in their enjoyment, and there's just been a great amount of feedback from that. I think this is the first of many things to come, so I want to thank the council for their support in making this project a reality. So I think you'll appreciate all the comments that you're getting from the committee and from the residents. We had a wrap-up meeting for our Memorial Day Parade. This is a thing that I started taking over as administrator. I think it's important that after we have events that we put the players in the room and have an open, frank discussion about what went right, what went wrong, so that we can make it better. So I want to thank Kathy Farina for putting that together in regards to the Memorial Day. We got a lot of good feedback from it. I think the folks from the Lions Club were astounded that anybody even asked them to come in and talk about how to make it better. And we had the representative from the schools there as well, and it was a great effort. Just so that you know, in case your residents are giving you questions, there is going to be a second attempt at reseeding the Hoover front lawn. This time they're going to bring in some topsoil over there, and so you may start to see that activity again here shortly, but I wanted to let everybody know that that's underway according to the developer over there. Kudos to Chief Wilder for his effort in leading this. They have been out at the summer concert series. I think they were signing people up on the spot with the library committee. They've got their little iPads or whatnot that they go around. And they have a schedule for numerous events that they're going to be at, and not just through the summer, but into the fall until this concludes. Finally, code enforcement. Code enforcement is very important to the city, and we have taken steps to make this an even better process. So I want to thank the mayor for the opportunity to put together some ideas that I was able to share with him and authorized us to move forward. We hired an additional nuisance inspector. Starts Monday. Mayor agreed to provide more support to that department. We're moving that department here to City Hall. So Mr. Johnson, the new employee, myself, the law director, will be part of a team that does a number of things. The first thing is that we need to streamline the process. It's extremely cumbersome, and we need to identify specific steps along the way that we can meet so that we are able to move this from start to finish. And I think in the past we've had a lot of things starting but not enough finishing. The second part would be to educate. We have to educate the community on what it means to be a member of North Canton and what responsibilities or expectations there are as it relates to the housing code. I don't believe that we've done a sufficient job of that in the past, and so that's going to be something that you will see a difference as we move forward. And then it's actually to move forward. Once you've streamlined it and we've got it moving, if that process involves sending it down to the Canton Municipal Court for prosecution, then by God, that's where it's going to go, because we can't let these things linger for years and years and years. The residents deserve some relief. So I appreciate your comments earlier, and you'll be seeing a lot of activity on that. That concludes my report.
Just to follow up, Member Director, I love when you said educate, because one of my biggest peeves is when somebody moves out or someone cleans out their garage or somebody does something significant, they haul the trash out and they set it out whatever day they feel they can do it, and it sits there for 3 or 4 days. That's just not the way we should handle things. And even if we have to put something in the, I know you probably have some ideas about how to educate, but if we have to put something in the water bill, it's just, to me, to look at somebody's debris for all weekend, and we've all seen it. I think we have to be more responsive how we handle that, educate, and then, hey, it's a warning, and you're getting written up. I mean, there's no reason to do this. Put mattresses out or clean out your garage and leave it on the curb.
Leaves, he leaves.
But even then, we got to have a way to address that with whoever's the landlord or whoever's in charge of that property.
It's not just the landlord.
I know, I understand that. I was waiting.
Trust me, there's lots of stuff.
Yep, there is. There is. There's residents that do it. Absolutely. I'm not saying it one way.
It's a slippery slope. I just think it's lead by example.
Right. So let's see if we can get a handle on that. But thank you for your
Well,
comments.
and to address that, certainly like to thank all the council members who come by, stop in, see me, call me, because there is constant dialogue between the 7 of you and myself, the mayor, and one of the upshots to that was from Councilman Revolt, that perhaps the next edition of our newsletter focus on that educational component, in addition to things that we can do electronically. But that's a very important piece. I know from the newsletter that we did last, a lot of people rely on that as one of their significant pieces of information. It's not just the social media crowd or the internet crowd. That print media is a big component to that. So I thank him for the idea, and that's something we're going to pursue.
That's good. Thank you. Mayor?
Yes, okay. You know, one of the programs that we started here, and it actually started in, with Patrick and also in our finance department, is the wellness program. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done so far with that. Because when you think of it, our employees, many of our employees that provide service to the residents, there's a strong physical component. So when you look at our police department, our fire, our EMS, our first responders, I mean, their physical health and being in that optimum physical health is a matter of life and death. You know, when we have police officers that are chasing somebody down, you can't have somebody that's out of shape and overweight. You know, we need people that are in top physical condition for the safety, for their own safety and particularly for the safety of our community. And so, and we've seen the impact of that. So we've had, you know, for example, some of our police officers like John Hemrick, he's been going to the Impulse boot camp training, he's down 30 pounds. You know, and he's one of our more senior police officers. So, you know, you figure when you're 30 pounds lighter, and he said he had a period where he was running, chasing somebody down. He felt good because he's in shape. And so that wellness program is really, it's really making a difference. I mean, it's really, really important. And so, Laura, I'm glad that you started it, and Patrick, that you got it going. And with that, we're looking at every single department and every service that we provide in the city. And so we looked at the IT. You know, we were so far behind in the IT. We've revamped all of our information technology in the city. We're in the process of completing that now because we were probably like 15 years behind. And it's because we were more in a reactive mode because we didn't have the revenue coming through. Now we're stable. So with the safety, and then also that leads me to, you know, with the AEP. So with the surveys, Chief Wilder, I'm glad that you're back. This is really a nice opportunity to get some grant money for the city. But this really is about AEP reducing their demand, North Canton reducing their demand of electricity. Because there's so much demand placed on AEP, they have to reduce it. So we got to get the LED lights. And this whole process is a pilot program to see how they can best do that. So we know we're going to be a great example for that. And then the next thing is when we look at the assessment, when we were looking at the operational assessment, so it not only is the operations, but it's also the financial end. So, so with Laura and Patrick looking at every department, that's really what brought about the safety building. That's what brought about the portico, because it wasn't about the aesthetics. It was really about the future of the building, because it was deteriorating. And at the same time, it does look beautiful too. When you look at the safety, when we're talking about this, this upcoming levy, we're looking at, I would call it like our vision for 2040. You know, for the year 2040, we have to look at where we need to be in the next 20 years. And that's really what this is about. We have to get away from being in a reactive mode, and we have to move into a proactive mode, because the people in our community expect, we have that tradition of excellence. They have come to expect the best in service. And we've been doing really, really well, but it's now to the point where we have to take it to the next level. Just from a compliance standpoint, from an efficiency standpoint, it's not about nice buildings. It's not about whether it's a new building or an old building. If we have an old building that can service those needs and optimize our services in the future, we'll use an old building. It's not about aesthetics. It's all about cost efficiency and effectiveness of the operation. And so Patrick and our finance director, Laura, and Tim, and our engineer, we appreciate the work you're doing, and council too. Council has been incredibly supportive in all of the reviews that we're having. So after we have the parade, I mean, we're even reviewing the effectiveness of our parades now. I mean, that's important, and you have our council members. Mark, you're sitting on that meeting. Daryl, Marcia on the economic development meetings. Dominic on our zoning, and Doug Foltz on the enforcement of the zoning code. I mean, there's so many different components that our city has to look at in order to be in that position of excellence in the next 20 years. So I appreciate the work everybody's doing, because you simply cannot do it by yourself. There's just too much. But, you know, working together, we'll be able to do it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor. Rob, our engineer?
Thank you, sir. Well, we've been pretty busy,
Yes,
if you
you
haven't
have.
noticed.
Looks good.
Start with our paving program. We're probably 2/3 of the way there.
That's awesome.
We got 3 more done last week. Working away at the Eastwoods tennis courts. The weather's set us back there. That's going well. Big one is Everhard Road repaving. All those catch basins are done out there, and the county hopes to have that done for us by Hall of Fame, which would really be good. Let's see, Backwell Street, pre-construction meeting on that tomorrow, so we'll see some activity out there. We open our South Main repaving bids. Those are open Friday, so we'll get that in yet this summer. And West Maple, we had that bid opening for right out here back on May 25th. We had estimated around $500,000, and we had 3 bidders, and our low was actually $335. So
awesome.
Good report there. And so many small things that we've been working on, but
Rob,
it's coming along.
when you get those low bids and there's that excess allocation, I mean, that's in the street fund. Can't we just add a few more streets on, or curb and gutters? You know, or, I mean, do we have to wait till next year? Can't we just, while they're out there
With
working?
West Maple, that one gets a little tricky because we have our grants that fund that, and maybe we can stretch things to.
I was just
do a little
thinking,
more
like, I'm
here and
trying.
there, but we can't go too crazy.
Well, you know, my goal
Grants.
is to get it caught up, and then it's easier to maintain. We could use the maintenance program more, you know, once we get a good. I mean,
Kinda got
it's
a
looking
couple
way
other
better than.
projects in the hopper that we.
I wanted to see.
No, you're right, you're right.
No, we're kind of thinking about that. We've got a couple other projects in the hopper from a water standpoint. You know, Dressel Road water line is finished up. We're starting on Whipple portion of the water line replacement tomorrow, actually. And, you know, once we see where we are, you know, we have enough monies, we're going to do Eastbury for sure this year, and then possibly Elmwood. So some discussions we've had, you know, Laura and I have had, and then also on the roadway side, and those funds, you know, I've got lots dancing in my mind, but I kind of want to get through this first and second wave to see where we are.
Let me know if I could dance with you.
But yeah, I mean, we're thinking about that at all times. I mean, the more we can do, it's kind of fun.
Thanks for being on it.
Rob, there's no better sound than in the morning you're hearing construction equipment that you know is paving. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Especially in May.
I like to smell it.
Especially in May versus September, October. So, you know, it's a great sound at 6:30 in the morning.
I like going to bed without looking at that thermometer. I do not like to pave in October, worried about weather.
That's good.
You're not kidding.
Back on track.
You know, if I could just also just clarify what our, you know, our engineer is really talking about, because Dominic, I was saying the same thing. You know, can't we get a few more extra roads paved with some of the extra money? But really what it comes down to is if the street has to have the water line and the sewer line replaced, and then we put that layer of pavement over, then really we haven't done.
That's not what I was thinking, but I know.
Yeah, you know.
Well, to add,
How about some sidewalks being fixed with some extra stuff?
I said that's what we have to work on next year.
That's
well,
you're right.
Huge need
to
in our community.
add to your comment and to the others, I mean, you want to keep this in mind, is what you've seen with what Rob's done by putting these projects out to bid early. We're getting the best pricing in the spring. And, you know, when I served on the other side of that board, we weren't doing that.
Didn't happen.
You know, it didn't happen. But now we got an engineer that can make that happen.
Absolutely.
So we're getting that best pricing. So when you say, if there are funds left over and we come to August, can we do that? But you won't get that pricing.
No, I would just throw it on.
It's the pricing that that person has available to squeeze that thing in at that time. And we might get more bang for the buck if we schedule that for the next spring and be able to roll the funds over and do it that way. Same with the sidewalks. I'm sure that the cement contractors would love to see us put together a bid package to go around and do some of that stuff, which is something that we had contemplated doing, but I think we'll get our best pricing in the,
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds good. So whatever it takes to get the job done, I'm all for it.
All right, anything else, Fran?
No, sir.
Okay.
That's my report.
Mary Beth, any?
No report.
No report? Okay, final call for new business, council. If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.